Aloha mai kako and mahalo for staying with us for the panel discussion. I really hope you all enjoyed the reentry simulation, and I hope you're able to take a lot of this back to your workplaces and continue these discussions. We're going to start part two of the program. This panel discussion is titled Reentry Reimagined, Addressing Barriers and Designing Pathways for Reentry in Hawaii. And moderating the conversation, we have Efrain Marimon, Director of Penn State's Restorative Justice Initiative, assisted by Kristen Johnson of the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission, excuse me. Next to Kristen, we have Kat Brady of Community Alliance on Prisons. And next to Kat, we have Matthew Talfit Te'e and Darwin Tumaro Camacho. Matthew is the president of First Lap, and Darwin is a resident of First Lap. And at the end over here, we have Kimi Takata, also of the Correctional System Oversight Commission. So I want to mahalo them for being here and for sharing their personal work experience and testimony. Great Chief Justice Mark Rechtenwald for his years of service advancing equality and access to the courts. And without him, we would not be able to host you all in this space and have such important conversations. So let's give a hand to our panelists
We're good. Hello again, everyone. For anyone who didn't have a chance to join, we just did a reentry simulation. So I wanted to use that as a kind of the basis for the moderation. So the reentry simulation was a broader understanding of the issues for someone transitioning home. And so we wanted to talk more about locally, what does that mean here in Hawaii? And so I'm going to lead with this to the panelists, but kind of let you go wherever you think it's important to share. In terms of the simulation itself, the reentry simulation, what do you think felt the most realistic, maybe relatable, in terms of the reentry experiences in Hawaii?
Aloha, everyone. Thanks for being here. I thought the most realistic thing was the runaround that people get. I'm sorry, I need a phone book to sit on or something. Okay. Okay.
So they're really close to the...
So I thought the most realistic part was the runaround that people get. You need to go here, there, oops, no, not here, no, there, oh, not really here, over there. And it's really easy to see why people feel so frustrated that they want to give up, and some of them want to go back to jail because at least they have a community there that understands. And I think when the state is responsible for people wanting to go to jail, we have a huge problem. And we should have a state that encourages people to come back to the community, to be part of the community, and to be with their families. And we don't do that. And that is the antithesis of Hawaii. We are family-based. We are all family. Even if we're not related by blood, we are all family. And once we forget that, that's when things go south, in my estimation.
I think the most realistic part was because, being in prison for so long, right? And then coming out and having to do these things can be very overwhelming, right? I was overwhelmed. Even if somebody came out and they had support and family, there's always an overwhelming feeling. Like, am I good enough? Am I going to make it? Am I going to get a job? Am I going to make my PO happy, right? Like, all these thoughts go into play with everything that we do. And so when you look at that wall over there where everybody just wanted to go back there, because it was easier. It's easier that you get fed breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You can walk to medical. You can, everything is easier there, yeah? So the simulation here that we all participated in is really, really, it's about how community came together and supported each other, right? And giving them their last ticket or whatever it is. And then it's also the same in prison too, right? And so when we talk about prison and re-entering society, it's such an overwhelming feeling. I can't, I mean, I'm happy to leave. I'm so excited. But then as soon as I walk through those gates, I'm like, oh gosh, like, okay, I don't have money. I don't have money, but you know, like, okay, I don't know. Like, and it just gets very overwhelming. But luckily, before I came out of prison, I've done the programs that I needed to do to really be accountable and face what I needed to do and understand, okay, my identity and where I come from and who I am, right? And so when I enter society, it is with people that I network with from the community, from different organizations that help come and volunteer into the prison, right? It's those people that come into the prison and touch my heart as I touch theirs, right? And so having this simulation, you know, and watching all of you guys, you know, go through this and getting scammed by me, but that's okay. It's real. It's so real. It's real, and it's very overwhelming. So I just want to say that.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Darren Tamara. Just want to share a little bit about myself. Small kind. A lot of us judge people based on what they know or what they see already. The first glance that mostly I get from everybody was, "Oh, hey, this guy look okay. It's normal as everybody." To be honest, I was. As of last year, before September 20, I was just like you guys sitting down. I had a loving family. I was a full-time dad. I had full-time work, and I was part of the Hawaii Army National Guard field artillery. I'm a combat veteran. I was deployed in Afghanistan. My last mission was with the Maui fire. So I did great things. You know, I'm not asking for recognition or anything like that, but because I made a mistake, it cost me everything. So when I was incarcerated, the hope of feeling hopelessness and how they're saying like, oh, being in jail is easier. It's not. Living out of prison is harder, but being in jail doesn't mean it's easier. I mean, yes, you get three meals a day, but a bread with barely any jelly on it, beans for days, mystery meat. But yes, you don't pay anything, you don't do anything. You're scheduled for shower, but most of you guys are used to like, oh, he's probably on a cell, AC. No, I was in an open bay with 50 other men. 50 other men, no AC. And all kinds of criminal background whatsoever. Wake up is at 3 in the morning. Sleep is at 11 or midnight. And jail is not easy. And the reason why I say what I accomplished first, before I just said this, because the realest thing is true. Because even I got out, even though they don't look at the things I did wrong. I haven't even went to trial yet, and they're already saying, "Oh, you're already guilty. Yeah, you got 6 more months for trial, but we just judge you what you did." Even though I'm waiting for trial, even though I'm going through trial, even my director here, Matt Taufedi, who introduced himself later, he supported me. To get that support, or even to get anyone to support me, was actually none whatsoever. And the guy of the hat, do not lose hope, because if I did, it's so easy to go back, or even worse than jail. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't, because I know in God I faith that my kids will be waiting for me, and I'll do my best to show them that I'm gonna do my best. You know, and sorry for taking the time, but thank you all.
My name is Matthew Tofite. the executive director and founder of an organization called the First Lap, a faith-based clean and sober living. Thank you to Mr. Moore, who's present now. Very inspirational to listen from a man coming out of prison. And basically, that's my life of what I do now. The age of 17, a full-blown alcoholic, the leader of the blood gang in Hawaii. The age of 20, facing 2 life sentences. Went to trial, convicted of the lesser charges. 10 years for both charges. I served 5.5 years. Got out on parole to work furlough when they just first opened, and understanding the challenges an inmate had to go through coming out. I couldn't get a job because of my criminal conviction. Pretty much lost hope. Yeah. On the verge of being violated for my parole, there was a divine intervention by a group of men who came to the streets, to the hood where I was a part of. They told me about this man named Jesus Christ. Yeah. Being married with 3 children, living on welfare, I decided to go to church. So on July 28, 1996, I heard the pastor's message, and his altar call was, "Is there anyone here who never felt love before?" I stood up crying like a baby. And from that day on, I started hanging around with positive group, a group of men, helping to build my spirit until 1999. I was able to meet a man I hated all my life for the abuse me and my siblings had from this man who was a pastor. Sat down and told him how much I hated him. He cried, he sat back down, and he said, "Son, I forgive you. Please listen to my story." When my father told me his story of how he used to be abused by our grandfather, how he was an alcoholic in our village, he always got into fights. The healing began both for him and I, because he was able to share his truth. He never shared with anybody. And for me to understand that I could no longer blame my father, for how he raised us. So talking about that generational curse that was broken, in the Bible, that's where he told me, "Son, I have this facility. I want to bless you with it. Do with it as God calls you." And it was then that I opened the First Lap, LAP, Life After Prison. That's been housing men coming out of prison, mentoring them and helping them to find this life that God has called them to. So my focus has always been on healing. So if we look at how God spoke to Malachi and he said, "I would send the prophet Elijah, and he will restore the hearts of the parents to their children and the hearts of the children to their parents." So ever since then, I was blessed to be a part of working with our youth. So I'm in our prison system 4 times a week. I volunteer my time in our youth detention centers in Halava, Waiava, and Otriposi. So this is where God called me to help, a lot of these youth to understand, because majority of them, if we look at the statistics according to the Census Bureau in 2022, 18.3 million children grows up without a father. It was also reported that 686,000 men incarcerated reported to have children. So this intergenerational incarceration, as we talked about, the mass incarceration, continues to go on and on until we have programs that's going to help these men to heal and grow up to take the responsibility that God has called all of us to be a better husband, better father, yeah, uncle, grandpa, and so forth. So this is where I believe, God called me to do this work, and just being inspired by having a lot of people here to understand, the struggles and pain that a lot of the inmates go through. And hopefully we can come to an agreement on how we can better serve, those coming out of prison and be a better community. So thank you.
Thank you all so much for sharing your stories and your backgrounds. It's really incredible to have 3 individuals who have all experienced prison and who are now here to share that experience with us today. So I really appreciate you all being here. My name is Kristen Johnson. I'm the Oversight Coordinator of the Hawaii Correctional System Oversight Commission, and I'm co-facilitating today. And so earlier, in this experience, some people had brought up how Hawaii is really unique, right? And how this experience, even though it showed us so much, didn't quite fit in Hawaii, right? And so I wanted to take a moment to give you all the opportunity to kind of talk about how is Hawaii unique when we think about reentry, and for good or for bad. I'd really like to hear about that.
Well, we have an expression here that says, ho'o kanaka, be a person of worth. And I think one of the big problems, I do a lot of work at the legislature. I've been a advocate for people who are incarcerated for 30 years. I started a group because I couldn't believe, I grew up in the Bronx, so I knew people on both sides of the system. And in Hawaii, I was shocked at how we decide who's worthy and who's not. And people who made mistakes in their lives, people who lost their way, people who never found their way, we decide, yeah, later for you. And I think, how could we do this? We're one family. We're all family. I've recently been working with a lot of the guys who are lifers in one of the corporate prisons that Hawaii contracts with. And we basically turn them over to this prison in Arizona, where in order to get a job there, a reporter who went in to get a job there was told in an orientation class, when someone asked, how do you actually get a job here? He was told, oh, you have to have a pulse. So that is really revealing. It's how unworthy they feel people are. So I think when we have that attitude, how can we possibly lift people up when you've already, crashed them to the ground? And I know Matt for a long, long time. And, I've seen him grow, and I've seen people in his program really blossom. And that, to me, it's possible. I witness it every day. So I'm talking with this guy who's now in Arizona in a prison called Saguaro. And he said, why do you do this? I said, you're from Hawaii, yeah? And he said, yeah. And I said, we're one family. You're my family. We're all family. And once we start deciding who's in the family and who's not, we're all doomed. In this day and age, we need to understand that we are all working together to be the absolute best we can be. And the way we do that is we tap into, I have never met a person who was born bad. I've met people who made decisions that were really antisocial, and I've met men who weep and say, I can't believe what I did. And I said, I never ask people what they do. How did you get here? Because I meet them at a certain point in their life and we start from there. So to me, when we keep bringing people back to the reason they were incarcerated, it is hopeless, because people feel like, how do I get out of this? I'm in this cage that I can't get out of because everybody has decided I am not a person of worth. I have never met anybody, and believe me, I've met a lot of people who did things that made my hair curl, which it doesn't do. But I just, I've never really met a bad person. I've met people who did things that were not good, but I have met people, I have found the goodness in every person I have met. And I think if we all practice that, if we all looked for the goodness in people, the whole world would change. And when we start, bifurcating society, deciding who's good, who's not good, we're all doomed. So there's so much that we can do. And I think these men and Kimmy, who I've known a long time, are so inspirational to me because I see people who have struggled through difficulties in their lives, ended up in prison, and somehow, like Phoenix, have risen from the ashes. And I am just constantly amazed by the resilience of the human spirit. So never give up hope, because the community needs you and the kids need you, because our kids feel hopeless. And I think we need to, you're the example. When I go into schools and speak and bring somebody who was formerly incarcerated with me, I can give them data and I can, talk about research. They want to hear what you have to say, because what you have to say really is real to them. So I want to thank everybody on this panel for just being so amazing, and you are my inspiration. I think about you every day. You're my morning and evening affirmation. Thank you.
I think for us, we are in an isolated islands, right? And so this can be a tight knit kind of family thing, and also it can be, people talk. So when people talk, the biases come out, the judgment come out, and that, it can happen both ways. We could stick together as one, or we can just talk about each other and judge each other, right? I want to use an example. I saw on the news that there was Catholic Charities is putting up a youth home for SOs. And I could see that the neighbors were like, I don't want them around here, da da da. Like, it kind of made me mad, like it kind of made me upset about that, because if we don't give people a chance, especially youth, right? And we listen to people's talk in the way, oh, that's a sexual offender. Oh, he's going to grow up like that. Whatever our beliefs is, and we never gave them a chance, right? And we shun them and shun them and shun them. Guess what's going to happen? You shun somebody, you can get an attitude, one crack or something, right? That attitude will come out. And so it's like, instead of doing that, and mind you, like, I get it about the sexual offenders, but I'm saying this right now, standing here right now, as somebody that was sexually molested. So I have a deeper understanding about people, places, and things. I just feel like Hawaii is a tight-knit place. We all do a lot of things, and there's different organizations that we have and resources and all it is. But sometimes some organizations work in silos, and I get it, grants, all of that. But really, really, we gotta help each other, get ahead of, just walk alongside each other, because the moment I came out, the first time I came out of prison, yeah, the moment I seen somebody give me one stink eye, guess what happened? I went right back to prison, because it triggered me, like, from my trauma. It goes back to trauma, right? And so when you feel like somebody is shunning you and turning you away and telling you no, oh no, you gotta get this, you gotta get that, you gotta go over there, get your birth certificate. all that is frustrating. And then that can make somebody be like, you know what? Fuck it. I just gonna run my own whatever, you know? And so the first time that I came out, I needed all those IDs and stuff, but I didn't have the support or the I couldn't navigate that in my head because I never had one before. You know, I didn't know how to. I mean, like, what is a birth certificate? I lived on the streets most of my life. I didn't need a birth certificate or ID. I used somebody else's ID. So I don't have that understanding about how important ID is. You know, and so when we talk about Hawaii as isolated islands, yeah, and we talk about coming together and just doing our part and what we can do, right? Just to fill those gaps. I think that's our kuleana, not competing against each other. You know what I'm saying? We can't compete against each other. Well, we do this, this, and this. Who cares? Do you really care about these people? Like, do you really care about them? Like, do you really sit down and say, hey, I get it, I understand, but let me help you. I hear you. I hear you. That's all I want to hear, right? And so Hawaii is a beautiful place to be. It's beautiful, beautiful people. And, you know, if we all work together, we can make beautiful reentry.
Right on.
For me, my passion has always been our youth. So I attempted to open a foster home in the year 2000. The state wouldn't allow me because of my violent history, so I continued to have the passion for kids. After going to high schools, middle schools, I was part of that youth ministry that went to all the schools. And we would share our testimonies of how God turned our lives around. So our former blood, our former crip, our pastor used to use our testimony to draw people together. So just seeing them get emotional and teary-eyed, I knew that was what God called me to do. Yeah, seeing the pain that a lot of our children go through. So I started a group called Peacemakers in honor of my victim and my brother who was killed in retaliation. So bringing the peace in people by allowing them to heal, yeah, as like what Kimmy shared. I look at the study in 1992, Dr. Vince Felitti, the relationship of child abuse and household dysfunction is one of the major leading causes of death in adults. Yeah, so just based on that study, understanding the pain and trauma that a lot of our people go through is what leads them to commit crimes, get addicted to alcohol and drugs. So if we look at that study, and if we trying to look at the solutions to resolve a lot of this, yeah, we gotta help them to deal with their addictions. Alcohol and drugs are one of the main leading causes of them going back to prison. They can't stay away from that. When they run into challenges, first thing they do, go to alcohol or drugs. Next thing you know, they violate it and they're back in prison. So that's what I feel would be something we need to focus more on. So when I talk about this ministry, I've been running for 23 plus years, no government funding. So the first 30 days, all these challenges that you see each person go through, we escort them to get their ID, their social security, birth certificate. We take them to all these places. So we provide transportation to all of these guys just to help them and not feel overwhelmed as I was when I was at La Maca work furlough program. And the accountability we hold for each man, yeah, I get to sit down with them and look at what their goals are and work with them from that. Everyone is different, but this is where I see a lot of our men returning back to prison is because of drug use, or alcohol. So thank you.
I just want to share what Matt was just saying. Yes, it's there's not. To be honest, I think he's the only one of the only programs that I know that I didn't even know existed where somebody with his own expense, no, not government funded, nothing, is Christian based to help people out of prison. Never heard of that. Never. I My friend called him because they knew each other and that's how I was introduced to Matt. I thought that was a scam. I was like, there's no way. There's no way. Because in prison, like again, the hope you have is in very, very fine thin. It's like stepping on eggshells, but underneath the eggshells is a black hole. So you just don't feel like stepping. But so Matt, when he called me and he said, "Oh, I can help you," the first time I told Matt, I was crying. "Matt, I don't have money. How I cannot pay rent. I have nothing." And the words he said, "Oh, I know. I've been there." And it just opens my eyes, like, oh, maybe this guy's right. Just those simple words. I never lose hope. I gave faith and met up with him, and here I am after I completed a 30-day mandatory program, and then I completed a 6-month program, and I'm still within the program because he offered me to somewhere to stay. Because yes, I have families, but I really don't have anyone. I'm one of those people that family is not on the island; they're off island, and it's just me. Yes, I have my kids, but I cannot see them due because I missed court date because I was incarcerated. But the system doesn't look at it like that. If you're incarcerated and you have appointments and you miss it, it's not their fault. It's your fault. I don't know that maybe that's something they got to fix. I don't know, but here I am today. I hope they fix that. I hope they fix it because they gave me a temporary 6 month TR not to see my kid. That's mandatory. Understand? But because I missed court date, I had no control. Boom, 5 years, and that includes you cannot contact a third party to contact them. If you do that, you violate it, and then that's 5 years automatic in prison. It's hard, but again, Matt is one of those programs where, if not one of the only programs that I know that helps people with nothing. I mean, even a good example is EBT. If you guys know about food stamps and stuff like that, I waited in line 3 hours to find out my status on my EBT. By the time I get to the front, oh, sorry, sir, but the application is missing. I said, oh, so what do I do? Get an application and you gotta fill it out? I said, okay, but you gotta stand back of the line. I was in the middle of the line waiting 3 hours. The line is from the third floor to the bottom first floor. I'll be there all day, maybe even by tomorrow, but I still did it anyway because that's a program that was free, but you gotta do what you gotta do. And like I said, sometimes when you're hungry, you just drink water because it's free. Breathe in air. I never had that experience before. I like to give, I like to help people. I do things, and next thing you know, I gotta do things like that. But yes, so yeah, just want to say thank you, Matt, and the people that he brought to the program. They're pre-evaluated, so of course he's not gonna bring anyone, any kind to the program, knowing that might not work out. He's trying Matt, like he said, he goes to prison, talk to these men every week. This guy's a busy man. Sometimes I text him like, "Matt, what you doing?" "I'm halava." Again? But that's what he does because that's what he wants to do, and he's my inspiration. Going back to that one event we spoke to the youth challenge. I first time ever witnessed a minor. I'm not gonna say his name. After our sharing what we do right now, the kid came up to us and asked Matt if I was going to Halawa. And Matt said, yes, I go there a couple times a week. Could you do me a favor and tell my dad that I'm sorry and I forgive him? A minor told him to do that. and I witnessed that. I thought I only watched this on TV, but I feel like because I was being there for Matt allowing me to, and himself to be at this opportunity to speak to young children to prevent them from going to prison, especially minors, to reach them in a level of understanding to come out from their shyness, their anger, because for me the hardest thing is to apologize and to accept apology, and a child to say, "I forgive my dad." Man, that I thought like, oh, this is real. Like the gentleman in the back with the hat. I'm trying to remember your first name, but Irvin Moore. He. Oh, sorry. But yeah, so we can reach out to people with the program, and even though it's not government funded or like that, people can help us children that doesn't have anything, and I feel like that's something we really need, especially in Hawaii. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. We're going to jump ahead a little bit just based on time. So this will be our last question, but I think it's a really important one. So based on this experience today, what actions could you or your community or anybody in this room take to better support justice impacted individuals here in Hawaii?
Care about people, and stop judging people. You don't know the path that somebody took to get where they are, and you don't have any right to pass judgment on somebody. So I work on, I wrote the reentry law, and I wrote the reentry law that passed in 2007 because I couldn't believe what I was seeing and hearing from people. And one of the problems in Hawaii is that we work in silos. So we have this, does this, does this, does this, but nobody talks to each other. And if we don't start systems thinking, we are doomed. And it is so important to understand, and that's why I love the first exercise, because how frustrating it is when somebody comes out and they're bounced from here to there to there to there, and there's no connections. And I think something is deeply wrong. And I think if we don't have positive leadership that believes truly that people can change, then we're just spinning our wheels. And I have seen good directors, bad directors. One of the better directors I've seen, I was walking through the prison one day and he said, "Oh, Joe, how's your dad?" And I said, "You know Joe?" And he said, "Yeah, he's been here for a few years and his dad just came out of the hospital." And I thought, wow, you understand people. And you understand that each person comes from a family and that they care about them. And you care about them and their families. I said, you just lifted that guy up in a way that maybe nobody else ever did. And that is amazing. So that director and I, we wrote this law that I've been trying to pass for 10 years on solitary confinement, because he wrote the policies in 2014, and then I talked to him and said, we need to update them. We need to be more inclusive. We need to make people feel like once they're sent to solitary, it's not over. So we need to change that and make it the beginning. This is the beginning of your life, and how do you step to get out of solitary, go into general population, and eventually be returned to the community. And I think if we had more people in the system who believed that that was absolutely true, And I can tell you that I know some amazing people who work for the department. And I am overjoyed and honored to know them because these are people who really do care. And if we don't have the leadership that supports that, it is very, very difficult. So I just want to say what we can do. One of the things I want to do is I want to go to the most impacted communities and have welcome home celebrations for people from that community who are coming home. So we have a massive potluck with music and dancing, and so that people realize there's not just them trying to navigate, they have a system, and they have a system of people who care about them. And I think that is the way to reduce mass incarceration. And that is a way for people to say, I'm never going there.
I just want to add. I just wanted to add to yours. Yes, I would love to have a system where, when I like myself could come out from prison, have some kind of guideline to get your IDs or even birth certificate, or how to apply for EBT and what to expect.
You should get them before you get out.
Yeah.
Luckily,
yes,
we have somebody who's working on that.
It would definitely help because like what you guys were feeling at the simulation earlier about frustration, that frustration is real, and people will just want to come back because they feel like it's not worth it, lose hope. I mean, it took me 3 months just to get my first EBT. It took me 4 months to get my first ID because my birth certificate was a pain. But I didn't know that. I had to learn it by myself. I went to banks to try to get it notarized, all of that stuff. They didn't even know what to do. No one knew what they were doing. The hardest words I hear from a lot of those places was, "I'm sorry, I can't help you. Good luck." And then I go back to square one. But yeah, like you said, it's nice to have a system where it's coordinated, they're communicating, and we don't have to be here in the first place. You know.
Yeah, just quickly, I just wanted to thank everybody for you guys' patience. I know it kind of went over time, but just one word. Hopefully, we can get this word. You guys can look at firstlap.org. I was just on Monday and Tuesday on 99.5 radio station. I had a podcast, but my story is the power of forgiveness. Yeah, so you can look more into that and understand the power of forgiveness. Because if you're looking at a man like me, I don't deserve to be here. My life should have been gone. But yet, God had a different plan. A former man who retired from public safety, when he first heard my story, he said, Matt, I'm going to get you into the prisons. Yeah, so I started my service in 2015, and to end this, May 24th, 2024, last year, the man who killed my brother was my guest speaker. So you talk about the power of forgiveness, where his life began that day when he got to share his truth in a group of men. So this is something I just wanted to share with everybody. Yeah, so firstlap.org if you want to learn more on how we can kind of help those you might know that need that support. Yeah, join us.
And Matt, you undoubtedly deserve to be here, just to be clear. You undoubtedly deserve to be here.
For me, I think I just want to lift up lived experience because, I think they're very important as peer supports, lifting up each other, and then having them be a part of your conversation. Like, what do you see here? What do you see there? What can we do better here? I'm telling you right now, people with lived experience will give you the best ideas ever, And it does take a village. It takes a village. It took a village to save me. Maybe 5, 10 villages had to save me. But I pushed through it. I fought through it. And I just want you guys to know that you guys are all appreciated. DCR, everybody, you know. So thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for everything. Thank you. One more thing. I mean, I know I was talking about lived experience. So on the 20th at Windward Community College, we're having a peer support summit, and it's going to be from the morning until 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. So please, 3 o'clock. Yeah, 3 o'clock. And I'm the planner. Thank you, guys.
I just wanted to close to say there is nothing stronger than the power of love. And once we operate in that sphere, things change. And tenacity always wins.
So we want to thank you on behalf of all the sponsors, creating the space, not just to have the dialogue, but imagine change or reimagine that change. Hopefully everyone turned to the person around them, had a chance to talk to them, because one thing that surfaced from this seems to be community and the power of that. And so that this community working together can really help to address that. And so thank you, all of you. Thank you to the panelists for sharing your stories and for being a part of this space. So thank you, everyone. And hopefully we get to hear all the wonderful things that happen in a follow-up one day.